Is this the best Vapormax yet? Let's find out. What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I'm reviewing the Nike Vapormax 2023. So the original Vapormax first debuted back in 2016 and over the last 7 years the shoe has gone through multiple iterations that have slowly made the sneaker a better shoe overall. However, while the Vapormax has gone through a lot of changes, not all of the changes have been good, and I think some versions of the shoe are actually worse than even the initial release of the shoe. The original Vapormax from 2016 was a pretty wild concept. We had never really seen anything like it before. The entire midsole and outsole of the shoe was made up of a giant air bubble. And then when you pair that with an entirely flattened upper, you get what's in theory an incredibly comfortable sneaker. And while yes, the original Vapormax was pretty comfortable, for some people it just felt a little off, and that's because some people's feet just didn't work right with the Vapormax outsole. Like my feet, I found that if I wore the original Vapormax for an entire day, my feet would get tired because of the way that the air units fell. It just felt like I had to do more work to actually walk in that shoe than to walk in other shoes. And there were a lot of reasons for that. It wasn't just my foot shape, it was also the way that the air units were placed and the size of the air units and all that sort of good stuff. And back in 2020, Nike did make a pretty large change to the Vapormax by completely retooling the Vapormax midsole. But even after doing that, which was a welcome change, they still had some weird design choices like removing the laces and putting in a weird like pull tab system, which by the way broke way too easily. It never seemed to fit me right. I hated that lacing system and I didn't understand why Nike couldn't just go with laces. Laces have worked for hundreds of years, just stick with laces. And as you may remember, after the 2020 pair, Nike opted to go back to laces, which was great, but the shoe just never really recaptured people's attention like the original pair did back in 2016. Now I'm not saying that the 2020 release of the shoe, or really any of the releases of the shoe in particular, hurt the popularity of the Vapormax. I just think over time people just didn't care as much. And the Vapormax went from one of the most popular sneakers in the market, getting Off-White collaborations and CPFM collaborations, to becoming just another lifestyle sneaker. And also I should note that the Vapormax was originally designed and probably is still designed to be a running sneaker, but I've run in the shoe. Isn't that great, especially when compared to other Nike running sneakers. So if you're grabbing a pair of these, maybe don't grab them if you're running. Maybe just grab them as a lifestyle shoe that if you're on vacation or something like that, you can run in if you need to, but I wouldn't say this is a running shoe, although it definitely has the aesthetic of a running shoe. But after 7 years and a bunch of little changes, we finally arrived at the Vapormax 2023, which in my opinion is the best Vapormax ever made. Now I'll get more into why I think that later on in the video, but first, let's talk about how you can grab a pair of these for yourself. So the Nike Vapormax 2023 has had a relatively slow rollout over the last couple weeks. First it released at Finish Line, then it released at Foot Locker, and it should be releasing at Nike probably either by the time this video goes live or just after. And the official retail price of the Vapormax 23 is honestly pretty high at $210. Now if you want to grab a pair of these for yourself, I've made sure to leave affiliate links to this shoe in the description below in a couple different colorways, but in my opinion this platinum colorway and also the black and gray colorway that just recently released are probably the best ways to go, because in my opinion they look the most like the original Vapormaxes. And that's the first reason why I think the Vapormax 2023 is the best Vapormax ever. It takes the style and aesthetics of the original Vapormax, which in my opinion was the best looking Vapormax up to this point, and put it on a shoe that's just a better footwear experience overall. Now with that being said, I still don't think the Vapormax is a beautiful looking sneaker. I mean, it looks like a mouth guard on your foot, or maybe like a football cleat or something like that, but at the same time it's not ugly. It's not that ugly. I got used to it. But at this point, why don't we dive into the materials of the Nike Vapormax 2023 and find out why this shoe is the best Vapormax. In my opinion, asterisk. There you go. I don't know if it's the best. In my opinion, it's the best. Also, interestingly enough, there wasn't a Vapormax 22. I don't know if you guys knew that, but there was a Vapormax 20, a Vapormax 21, and then the 23 with nothing really releasing last year. So realistically, Nike has had 2 years to develop this, so this should be the best Vapormax ever. And like I said, I think it is. But starting off in the upper of the shoe, you've got this relatively soft and pretty loosely knit Flyknit upper, which apparently is made up of 20% recycled materials. As you can tell from the box that the shoe comes in, Nike made sure to let you know that they're using recycled materials in their shoes on the box, just so that you wouldn't forget. They tell you on the website, they tell you on the box, they tell you everywhere. I mean, obviously I think that's a good thing, but I think up until recently, and maybe even now, that's almost been more of a marketing stunt than anything else. Compared to previous Vapormaxes and really any other Flyknit shoe, the Vapormax feels very soft, and while it's not the stretchiest material in the world, it does give you some nice flexibility whenever you need flexibility. It also is a little bit more loosely knit than previous Vapormaxes, so it's a lot more breathable than some other Flyknit shoes on the market, including the previous Vapormaxes. And colorway wise, like I mentioned, this shoe reminds me a lot of the original platinum Nike Air Vapormaxes, which was my favorite Vapormax colorway, and I think it looks really great. It's really nice to see Nike go back a little bit to that original Vapormax design aesthetic that everyone seemed to like, and sort of away from that futuristic no-lace situation. Also, according to Nike, this shoe is the lightest Vapormax ever made. I can't confirm that. I don't have any other Vapormaxes with me on hand, but I don't disagree with them. It feels really nice in hand. And I also don't know if that's 100% due to the Flyknit upper or if that's because they have in some way removed material from the Vapormax midsole. I kind of doubt that they took anything away from the midsole because it seems like it's the exact same or very similar midsole to what we had on the 21 and the 20s, so it probably came from the upper somewhere. But either way, this Vapormax feels great, and you kind of forget that you're wearing it after a while because of how light it is. Now, one of the biggest changes on this shoe, which I almost hesitate to call an upgrade because it should have been there the whole time, is the fact that you now have traditional laces, and Nike actually calls that out on their website because they're so proud of it. I mean, I guess the Vapormax 21 had standard laces too, but you know, it's nice to call that out as a feature. Besides the standard laces, you also now seem to have some more flywire hits on the toe of the sneaker and along the side of the sneaker. Flywire, if you guys don't know, is a very thin thread that sort of loops around the laces, and when you tighten the laces, it pulls the entire upper of the shoe together because it weaves through the Flyknit itself. It just gives the shoe a slightly more customizable and tight fit, which I definitely like, especially on a shoe that's supposed to be a running sneaker. Continuing up on the shoe, you've got this semi-detached tongue, which is kind of a nice detail. I can't remember if the original Vapormax had a semi-detached tongue or not. I think it probably did, but let me know in the comment section down below. And then a nice addition on the back of the tongue and also around the top of the ankle collar is this really soft fabric material that kind of feels like Elmo fur or something like that. It's literally only on the edge of the ankle collar and just on the top part of the back of the tongue, but it definitely makes the ankle area of the shoe less abrasive against your foot if you're not wearing socks or maybe wearing ankle socks or something like that. I definitely recommend wearing socks. I run a sock company called Apothecary. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, we make super comfortable socks that go great with all your sneakers. Definitely check it out through the link in the description below, but either way, good addition to the Vapormax. Moving inside the sneaker, there isn't really any other padding around the upper of the shoe. Your foot is pretty much just right up against that Flyknit material. And then rounding off the inside of the shoe, you've got this really interesting perforated insole, which is obviously made of some sort of recycled materials and features this very thin mesh on the top and then all these perforated holes through the bottom, which I guess is for breathability, or maybe allowing your foot to kind of compress the insole a little bit more so your foot is more up against the air unit. I'm not sure, kind of a weird detail, but it's there nonetheless. It is cool looking though, I won't lie about that. Like, it's a cool detail, but I don't understand its purpose. I'm sure there is one, I just don't know what it is. But now getting into sizing and fit of the Nike Air Vapormax 23. And the good news is this shoe does seem to fit true to size. In fact, it's slightly wider from what I can tell than previous Vapormax versions. I can't confirm that 100%, I can just see what I can see and tell you how it feels on foot. For me, it feels a little bit wider than previous versions, but that could just be me imagining it, I'm not sure. Either way, I still wouldn't call this a wide foot friendly shoe, but the good news is if you have normal to narrow feet, you should be just fine rocking this shoe true to size. But hey, as I always suggest, if you're grabbing a pair of these sneakers for yourself, make sure to try them on first before you buy them to make sure that you're grabbing the right size for you so you don't get blisters and so you don't spend money on a shoe that you can't even wear. Continuing back in the shoe, you've got this printed on Nike swoosh, which actually seems to be around the same size as the original Nike swooshes on the original Vapormaxes. It also comes printed in this nice reflective material, which is definitely good for a running sneaker. And then moving even farther back on the shoe, you've got some fuse overlay, the Vapormax logo on the heel, and of course a pretty standard pull tab at the top of the ankle area, which is great compared to that awful pull thing that tightened your laces on previous versions. And then moving down on the sneaker, you get to the Nike Air Vapormax midsole and outsole, or I guess air unit, which apparently is the largest air unit or one-piece air unit that Nike has ever made. Now, what's interesting about this air unit is that it's pretty much the same as the previous 2020 and 2021 version, which in my opinion is the best version of this air unit because it's more stable. It feels maybe not as soft as the originals underfoot, but definitely more wearable underfoot and more supportive. And especially towards the heel of the shoe where you've got the most air, you do get a lot of squishiness and bounciness when you put some weight on that part of the shoe. Overall, I wouldn't call this a max cushion midsole. It's more of a springy trampoline-like midsole, but it does feel nice underfoot, and it's one of these softer air midsoles that you can get. This is also dumb, but one of my favorite details on the shoe is this mini Nike swoosh on the lateral side of the air unit. I don't know why I love mini Nike swooshes, they just look cool, and on this shoe it looks cool. I don't think it's on the previous version of the shoe, at least not on the 2020 version of the shoe, but it looks nice on the sneaker, adds a little bit of extra branding and some interest to the midsole, so there you go. Just a personal thought or opinion, you know, you guys don't have to agree with me on that. And then finally moving to the bottom of the sneaker, nothing has really changed from the previous versions of the shoe. You've still got your slightly thicker rubber panels on the back of the heel and towards the forefoot of the shoe for just a little bit of extra durability. And I've got to say that overall, the Nike Air Vapormax 23 is a solid, slight improvement on the previous version of the shoe. Visually, this is the best looking Vapormax in my opinion since the original, and maybe even more so than the original because I think the air units are a little bit less conspicuous. And comfort wise, it's the most comfortable. The air units are stable and soft-ish. They get you a nice bounce when you're walking in them. Nike fixed the padding problem around the top of the ankle with these nice padded furry areas, which I appreciate. And the Flyknit upper feels good. It's soft, it's flexible, it's very breathable. And when you pair that with standard laces, it's a pretty comfortable experience overall. Is it as soft as like a Pegasus or an Invincible run? Absolutely not, but it's a solid all-around lifestyle sneaker, which you can run in if necessary. But hey, that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the Nike Vapormax 2023, the shoe that, in my opinion, is the best Vapormax ever made. Now, I would love to know your thoughts on this shoe, so make sure to let me know those thoughts in that comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.